హలో. కౌశిక్, ఇట్స్ జస్ట్ డన్ అండి. Hello. Hello. Yeah, Kaushik. Today it took time to record it, basically. Yeah. Can you hear me, Andy? Hello. Hello.
Yeah, Andy.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to
Yeah,
know.
it's good.
All right. I don't know why it is converting that recording. So I thought if I'm going to start the meeting again, I might lose that particular recording. Okay.
Okay.
The screen now, then where are we with respect to the test plan? Can we continue until 5 o'clock, Kaushik? 5:15, 5:30 is fine for you, or just let me know.
Five, I think is okay.
5 is fine, right? Yeah, we'll try to finish off test plan and we'll see. All right. Assumptions and then dependencies, basically, we'll be calling it out. So you got with what is the risk and all this one, right? This is important, the impact and likelihood and mitigation. Okay. The contingency plan is whenever risk is going to happen, we are actually planning for the mitigation. It may or may not happen. This is the mitigation. But certain risks are for sure it is going to happen, then you will have to come up with the contingency plan. Okay. The risks that may or may not happen, we'll have a mitigation plan. But there are risks that are going to happen for sure, the contingency. Okay. You know that, a person is going with the, what we call, is going on leave for this sprint, the developer who is critical for that. Okay. It's a planned leave and all, as a lead or someone or a manager and all. So what is the contingency plan for that? I will have to ensure that because he or she is going on a leave and he or she has given me an adequate notice. I'll have to identify a resource for their replacement and give them the KT should happen smoothly, right? And I need to arrange for an alternative, right? That is kind of a contingency plan, right? So that, the project will not stop and all. So need to plan for, 1 to 2 weeks KT, whatever is the KT plan, and up 2 weeks before itself, I need to identify a resource and I will have to plan for KT sessions and all. Then I will allow them to go in the long leave, 2 to 3 weeks or whatever it is. Something like that. The contingency is that in this sprint that it is going to happen for sure. So you're coming out with the contingency plan. Okay. Mitigation plan, it may or may not happen. Then how do you mitigate that particular risk? There are certain risks that you cannot avoid. For them, you are going to provide the contingency plan. Okay. What are the dependencies, basically? So dependencies, or I'm just calling it out here, the deployment. You cannot obviously start your SIT, system testing or functional testing, any of your QA tasks until unless the code is deployed into QA, right? Code development should be done and it should be deployed into QA environment, and also unit testing should be started. Okay. What is the impact if not delivered? So what is the date? The tentative date timelines, at least the milestones you need to call out over here. Okay.
So is it the date of the
completion?
Completion, is it? Okay.
Right. And code deployment and unit testing should be completed by this time, 4/9.
By this date, okay.
Yeah. So by this time, so that I can start on my SIT. If it is not going to complete by this time, then what is the impact?
Then SIT will be delayed. Okay.
Okay. Similarly, completion of SIT, functional plus end-to-end testing, system integration testing means it should be completed by this week. If not, my UAT will be delayed.
UAT will be delayed.
Okay. QA organization, QA will be set it up. Environment test environment should be set it up by 4/2. If not, SIT testing will be delayed. Impact what if not it takes. Okay. This also.
So SIT will be done again, is it?
I mean, like there are two parameters that is going to delay with the SIT. One is your test environment, who the owner could be responsible for
Uh,
different, right? And one is your code deployment, and then unit
oh,
testing. The responsibility or owners are different over here. Okay.
okay.
So, I mean, typically, this will be the dev team, and this is the
Yeah.
QA team, whoever is the
Testing team.
owner.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is something like, if you are having a separate platform team and all, so he or she is will be the owner of this thing. Okay. Or anyone who is working on infrastructure team. There is an infra team.
Okay.
Okay. The owner
Okay.
SIT testing will be delayed by how many days also, it is specifically sometimes. So with these two parameters, my SIT will be delayed. Okay. These two are the different owners. So I'm calling it as a separate entity so that, your scrum master or a test lead, or you need to follow up with them separately to ensure that, you are there is no impact on the SIT timelines.
Okay.
Clear? Clear, or any doubts on this?
Yeah. It is clear. It is clear. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here is actually the test strategy contains test methodology and approach also. This is all even in the same similar thing that you find it out in the test strategy document also. But typical, that's the reason why we would say, like, test strategy is a kind of subset to the test plan. Test plan contains more of high level also. So typically, like, for a line of business, you can derive one test plan. And for each and every functionality, you can have a strategy document also. Okay.
Okay.
So suppose, like, you have 4 tracks or 3 to 4 tracks under you as a lead, or at least 2 tracks under you. Like, one is like cards and another is consumer business banking or something like that. Okay. I can have test plan for the entire, some region, like, Northern Pacific transactions. Cards is for,
Okay.
or if you take an example of insurances, health is one and then life is one. Okay. And it is a different one. You can have a test plan together for health and life. Okay. Calling it out what is the risk and what is this. These are all generic, but the strategy of each and every unit will be different, right? So for health, you are going to write down your test strategy separately. For life, you are going to write down. So for each module, you will be writing, or each specific section, you will be writing your test strategy, any of the new functionalities. Okay. So what is the test approach over here that you are following? Okay. So the testing for this blah, blah, blah. So at the program level, the test plan will be there. At each of the, module level or project level, okay, will involve, like, test strategy document will be defined. So what is this test strategy document? Test strategy development, test cases development, what is my test methodology, test execution, and then test reporting. Whatever we discussed in SDLC will come over here. Okay. So what are the test cases that you developed also? Ideally, you can provide the link over here, but you will have to add certain word base, like, to an end user who is quite new to the testing stuff and all, like the business users or whoever it is, like, who are all quite new to this testing approach. They need to understand, right? So you will have to add certain word base. What is a test case? And then this could be, mentioned in the generic template, whatever, based on the project that you are following and all. Remember, it could vary from client to client. Okay. So what are typically test cases? Any preconditions, objective will be there, set of steps will be there, expected results will be there in my testing template. I'm going to show also the attachments, relevant files, tables, views, and all will be there and all. Okay. And test cases will be developed in which tool? Here is the tool that I just mentioned it as an Octane, which was the test management tool that we are using. You can use ALM, Rally, or any of the things. Okay. Specifically.
Okay.
And again, each test case can be tracked back to mapping requirement and user stories to maintain the within the tool, so that to maintain the requirement traceability. I think we discussed what is requirement traceability, right? To ensure the test coverage. Okay. And where the defect
Requirement traceability. Yeah, I think so.
requirement traceability matrix, RTM.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I think we covered somewhere. RTM, requirement traceability matrix, meaning when you are writing the test case, right? When you are
Yeah,
writing the
yeah.
test case, each requirement should have one or more test cases.
Yes. Yeah, I
Should
remember.
be mapped to one or more test cases. Okay, at least it should have one test case so that all the requirements should be covered. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
How do you ensure that your test coverage is good? When you are mapping, okay, I'm writing this test case for this particular acceptance criteria one. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
If there is a need to split it at the acceptance criteria into two test cases for the clarity and understanding, ideally, I would recommend to write the test cases at the granular level possible, at the least granular level that is possible. Okay, the
Okay.
granularity is more important. Okay, so you can split that also, but at least you should ensure that none of the acceptance criteria is missed out in your test coverage. Okay, that is what
Okay.
is a requirement stored within this tool, whatever it is, and defects, where are we going to write the defects and all, what are all the test cases. So once you develop the test case, typically you can add the link when you upload it into SharePoint or somewhere if you have developed it in Excel, or you have uploaded directly to ALM. Maybe you can export them into Excel or in Rally or something. You can just add the link also. Okay. To test cases. You don't have to write down the test cases entirely, but just you can just incorporate that particular thing. So people who are all wanted to visit the test cases, they can go ahead and visit the test case, or even scenarios only you can just add. Okay. And when you are
Okay.
actually see, test plan is the first and foremost document that is going to be prepared, right? By the time you might not have come up with the test cases, you might have come up with the scenarios. So scenarios high level also, you can just, add it in the link, or you can just, once the test cases are done, right, entirely, and you have that sign off was done, reviews were done and all, then also you can add the link over here. Okay, but you need to
Okay.
ensure that, the test cases are going to be mentioned in this particular path. Okay. And you can follow saying that there will be separate test case review that will be scheduled to go through the test cases and revisit the test cases and all that stuff. But the scenarios add link to the test cases or scenarios, which is more important. What are you going to cover also? We need to describe in the test plan. Okay. And you can say that this is a living document, so this can be modified appropriately further once the test cases have been reviewed and all that stuff. Okay. So what is a test definition? We will be just calling it out. What we have discussed right now, the boundary values and effective design, equivalence class partitioning, what are all the techniques or full volume of testing. Just now we discussed, right? Saying that, test data will be defined during our development of test cases. You can just define like that, or you can say that, the test data is creating the minimum amount of data to ensure the maximum coverage can occur. So as I mentioned, like, you can just follow this out. Also, full volume of testing is not possible. So we are covering like, top, bottom, middle, based on the key columns. Okay. So test data.
No.
And if you're using any tool also, there will be certain tools to generate the test data, like, Redgate or any other tools will be there. So that also you can just call it out. Okay. In the test data definition. So test execution. What did we mention? The test execution. So activities will follow hybrid agile or the agile process, whatever, or waterfall, whatever is the process that it is following. So what are the steps, how it is with the test steps, like, step-by-step document kind of thing that we will be doing. Like, development team will be building the module or component in a site environment. After the build team refines the data, transforms the data, and loads the data into the various layers. Okay, system testing as part of deliverables. Once system test execution is stable and reaches a minimum of 70% pass rate, this is our criteria. You can just mark it as 90% or 100% based on your project. Will perform, whether which are all cross-browser device testing in test environment, regression tested to ensure the stability of the before pushing the integration. Okay, what are all the testings that I'm doing? Testing team during the sprints will test the planned task and completes the test execution. During the sprints, it may happen that developer deploys some task at the end of the sprint. Testing may not get to, in this case, testing will be completed within 3 days after the sprint completion. So this is what we are just telling them a step-by-step document and all in the test execution.
So we are telling them if it is not, testing team may not get enough time to test. Okay, if the developer delays, okay, you replace some task at the end of the sprint. Okay, yeah, I got it.
This is optional. This is optional. It is not
Yeah,
necessarily
it is
always,
anything.
like, it is based
Yeah,
on that project agreement at that time we have created like this. Okay, with the agreement with all the stakeholders. It may not be 3 days necessary, or it will spill over, or if it is like, it is going to test, but you can say, mention that, it is going to spill over. Okay.
okay.
What are all the test execution, and you will have to clearly mention which tool you are using also, and give that link also over here. Okay. Test execution link also. If it is a Jira link, Jira link test results will be uploaded and all. Record the test results and all.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Temporary.
Also, you can just clearly mention saying that, test execution, how many defects are passed, or, what are, I think test reporting, we are going to calculate all that stuff. But this is like, pass, fail, or what are the different execution statuses also, you can just mention. Okay, my different.
So, yeah, okay. So what do you mean, like mention the link to the test results? Is it from
Okay, if it
Jira?
is like, Jira and all, right, you can just mention that particular link.
Yeah, okay. If
Okay,
we upload all the
mention the link,
test
I'm sorry,
cases in
mention the
Jira.
test results link.
Yeah, okay.
You can also say that, what is test pass, test execution criteria. Okay, what are all the different statuses? Pass, fail, or block. What do you mean by
Yeah,
block? When do you block the test case? When do you pass the test case? You can further expand. Okay. What do you
differ
mean
as
by
well, right?
block? That, you cannot further,
We can't test
if
the,
further cannot be proceed. Okay. The
yeah,
test
but it can be
execution
in
cannot be
different
proceed
ways.
further.
Yeah.
Okay, if if the test case is failed, okay, that is fine. That one particular test case is getting failed, you can proceed with the other test cases execution. But the first and foremost test case, which is having a precondition kind of thing or something like, the rest of the 10 test cases are dependent on this particular test case, which are getting blocked because of this failed test case, right? Until unless you resolve that failed test case, you cannot block, then we'll mark those statuses as blocked, typically, right?
Okay.
Instead of marking all the test cases as failed, what we used to do, we used to fail that particular test case and we used to mark all the other test cases as blocked, and we used to raise only one defect. Okay. Once
Okay.
this defect is fixed, then only I can go ahead and verify the other 10 test cases also.
Yeah.
Once this is passed.
Dependency. Yeah.
You get it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So all these things you can just explain, and here we are clearly mentioning like what is unit testing and all this stuff. You can get it from the development team, but you will have to mention. And clearly here I'm calling it out, what is the entry and exit criteria. For any test plan, this is more important, or even a test strategy document. The entry and exit criteria. When do you start your testing? When do you close your testing? Okay. Closure criteria, start and closure criteria, entry exit criteria, or suspension criteria. Sometimes you will have to suspend the tests also that you are doing, right? Suspension and resumption criteria also. Okay. Sometimes you will have to, but right now, usually suspension and resumption criteria used to be more in waterfall models, but now I think in Scrum and all, they do not want that activity to be suspended, like, because they were discussing it is only smaller chunks and all, right? 2 to 3 weeks only. So this is what. what is the entry criteria for that? So what is the environment? Here I just mentioned the broadly development environment. You can clearly mention the environment details itself, like, whatever it is, like ACDU 01 dot blah 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 dev.com, whatever it is the environment, you can just mention the environment details. What is the objective of unit testing? What is the exit criteria? When do I say that, my criteria is passed, unit testing is passed? Degree of success in
Okay.
the unit tests. Okay. Suppose like 90% of my unit test tests are passed and there is no issue. Even in unit testing also, they might say that, okay, we encountered this particular issue, but barring that particular issue, we are going to deploy all other code because they do not want to hamper the test schedule. Okay. And that particular defect is not hampering or it is not hindering any of other activities. They can give certain times, like, they can give that, conditional deployment also to us, not the entire one, so that, they can avoid unnecessary defects. Okay. So this
Okay.
is the best practice, I would say, rather, actually out of my experience, I have thought and implemented it because dev team earlier, when they mark that user story is ready for retest, they never used to mention, and then they used to mark it as a ready for retest itself. Okay, the entire acceptance criteria. But when we started testing and all, we figured out one of the functionalities is not working. Obviously, as per that, I used to log it, or my team used to log a defect based on that, right? Because for us, acceptance criteria is the Bible. So based on that, then they used to come out and say, hey, we already know this issue, we are working on it, so this wasn't being deployed. Okay. I mean, this is how, like, the dev
Okay.
lead used to go a bit aggressively saying that, why didn't you check with us before logging the defect? Ideally, it is not possible always. When it is a straightforward and defect acceptance criteria that it is not waiting, then why should I go ahead and wait for you to log in and then wait for you to check and all? So if you are having certain limitations, you have a known issues and all, okay, drop me a note. But this is user story, this acceptance criteria is not developed. So barring that, we will test the entire thing. And you cannot even simply hold back that entire user story also if that particular acceptance criteria or requirement is not so dependent on, I mean, like, not that all the requirements are dependent on that particular requirement. You don't have to hold back that entire user story because our testing team time is getting wasted, right? Meantime, we'll proceed with other. So, I mean, I would say, like, that way, like, you can convince them in front of your lead, then my manager agreed, yeah. As in when you are actually marking those user story into ready for deployment, at least call out somewhere that, hey, this particular feature is not at deployed. So you can go ahead and proceed with the testing for the rest of the acceptance criteria, barring those feature requirement and all that stuff. Or drop me a note, this list of user stories we are planning to deploy. And if there are any exceptions in that user story, that, exceptions in the sense, like, this is an exception, then they used to come out that, oh, this is exception and this is invalid defect. That is not the right thing. Okay, when you are deploying itself, call out it as an exception, then we will not touch that, right? We agree to that because being agile, we also need to ensure that we need to work with them collectively. You also should not be adamant to the dev team saying that, hey, unless this entire thing is completed, I cannot test, right? Unless it is a very critical functionality that you cannot proceed for your testing and all that stuff. But if it is not critical, that you can at least start with your functionality can cover at least 30%, 50%. By the time you will proceed with the other 30%, the team will deploy this feature also. Okay. Then they started calling out those exceptions as and when they are deploying the user stories. They started calling out, okay, we have developed this user story with the interest of time we are deploying, but except this feature, which we are calling it out. Okay. So make sure that this will happen also. So the exit criteria, ideally they need to mention, but they will not. Then at least, you make sure that it needs to be called out. So what is the most important part for the objective? Okay, and entry and obviously exit criteria of SIT testing. Entry and exit criteria, percentage of code tested. This is where it was mentioned. Exit criteria itself, they can call out the exception. Okay, only 70% of code was tested. Say that. Okay, the rest of this one is. is not there, and all the 70% of the test cases are passed, the degree of success, then you can take a call. Okay, at least I can test the 70%. But if they say that only 10% of the code was tested and only 5% is
Mm.
passed, then you will say that there is no point in testing it, right? So you complete your
Okay, yeah.
unit testing, at least, give me above 50%, that being a QA lead or your dev lead can come to an agreement with the help of, managers, scrum masters and everything. Okay, that will be.
Okay.
This is also an entry criteria. This I'm just specifically mentioning the particular functionality, wireframes and all. But I'm just calling it as what is my entry criteria. The requirement should be approved for development, approved by whom? All the stakeholders, like, business managers, dev team has to provide the sign off, QA lead has to provide the sign off for the requirement document. The QA as understands, so QA team has to provide the sign off, dev lead has to provide the sign off for that particular document. And then business has to, product owner needs to approve, then okay, then we are good to develop, create these requirements and all. So in that way, right now we are going to create the user stories, but earlier waterfall models they used to have still. Okay. And then creative test treatments are completed, SIT environment is available and correctly configured, test cases are completed for system test. Before you start up test execution, you need to be ready with the system test cases or, the test cases, right? Okay, whatever is the tool that you are using and all, is it actually configured or not? A release notes is completed. Your deployment plan and all, whether it is completed or not. The readiness of the system. Okay. How do you test the readiness of the system? You will perform some smoke test or sanity test, and you will accept that particular what we call particular environment also. So this is some of the things. Testing personnel are familiar with the system security, development teams, application support is in place for the test team. All known defects from previous test level are known to the and loaded into the Jira or ALM, whatever is the tool. Okay. Or defect history, unit testing results, meaning like, unit test results or something. It should be the entry criteria. Ideally, what should be the entry criteria? In 2 lines, I would say the entry criteria. This is exhaustively for that particular requirement I have written. But system testing, if you want to say that system testing QA, what is the entry criteria? The major entry criteria for system testing is QA environment should be up and running, right?
Okay.
That is the major system criteria. And code deployment. Latest code should be deployed into QA. Sufficient test data. You can raise a flag if any of them is not matching. You can even call it as a risk. Test data is very important, okay, in our what we call ETL testing and all. Sufficient test data is available. If not, I would rather recommend before SIT starts itself, focus on test data, how to procure the test data and all. We need to bring it into as a discussion and we need to finalize the test data selection or identification. Okay. How can we copy that, as I told, like, data copy or some existing data copy, or you can generate some mock data or something like that. Okay. Some insert scripts can be done by a developer or some, dummy files and all. So that can be done also. Okay. These 3 are the bare minimum entry criteria. Okay. Fair and for system testing. Kaushik?
Yeah.
Okay, all the necessary tools should be.
So we have entry and exit criteria for each and every testing
stage. Yeah.
Testing?
Yes.
So
yes,
they will deploy the code, is it? Like first they deploy the code for unit testing and we do Unit testing is done by the developers, I think, right?
Right, developer. This is for only for system testing I have written.
Okay, so they will look after the develop testing, unit testing, but
First
when
and
it
foremost
comes
thing
to
is, are you going
system
to
testing,
test it in the QA environment, or are you going to test it under what environment? Environment should be finalized. If it is a QA
okay,
environment, procuring the QA environment is also a big challenge. Okay.
okay,
And that also, we cannot do it as a tester, but we will have to, your QA lead or someone has to coordinate with the architecture or data engineer or developer. And then, I mean, based on the directions from data engineer or architecture, your developer will set up that environment. Like, our platform team will give, okay, this box we are going to give, this is the environment name, and they will set up, help you to set up with the jobs and all that stuff, and all the configurations and all will be there.
okay.
All the test management tools should be available. This is the minimum. We are only focusing on system testing. Okay. Should be
Yeah, okay.
installed. What are all the installed required installation software should be installed on your machines to proceed with this one. Okay, for the resources. What is the exit criteria of system testing?
Um,
No 772 issues. And one of the most
okay,
important thing is also even test cases that needs to be executed should be ready. Okay.
yeah, okay.
Test
Entry
cases
criteria,
needs
yeah,
to be
ready.
prepared before start of the execution. That's a bad practice to start the execution, writing the test cases or executing the test cases when the test case itself is not there in the sprint and all. Ideally, we used to execute the test cases and we used to write the test cases for another sprint. Okay.
Okay.
All entry have been met, entry criteria, exit criteria, this should be met. All test cases have been executed and list of test results are available for verification wherever is in the tool. System function according to the solution design and all. The summary report is completed and evidence reports are captured.
Yeah. Okay.
No seven, all defects found in the test phase have been reviewed and logged in Jira. All non-critical and high defects have been resolved. This is the most important exit criteria.
Okay.
Amongst all. Okay, everything is
Yeah.
all SIT defects.
I think we have less than 10 minutes now.
Okay, because it's a SIT. So here we have given it as a system integration testing also, because we are having a kind of a requirement for the cross browser also. So I have just specifically calculated, but the entry and exit criteria is same only. Only thing
Same
is,
as
we are verifying the API responses. It depends on the project to project. In one of the projects that I have chosen, that's actually API integration is there. So so along with the system testing, we are integrating the APIs and we were testing that also, kind of end-to-end testing. Okay.
Okay.
But the entry exit criteria is same. Only the API should be up and running. That is the entry criteria. Okay. So cross browser, I'm going to select one more cross browser and I'll be testing that also.
Okay. Cross browser
And
means
what
like
are all the
it's like
mobiles
a
also
browser.
we have tested on what are all the different types of mobiles also for mobile testing also, I called it as separately.
Okay.
So this is all part of your testing strategy. It is not necessary in each and every project. If there is no mobile support or there is no cross browser support, specifically you all have to select, you don't have to call it out. Okay. This consists of a very big document, but you can just, curtail into whatever. So I have taken that covers the maximum and everything. Okay. One of the such projects that I worked in my previous experiences and all out of my previous experience. So there is ad hoc testing also. Ad hoc testing, you will not be having any test case and all. You are just simply exploring the functionality or based on the experience. Based on the experience of that functionality, you are familiar with that one. You are just going to execute that. You are going to just test the application. You will log a defect if you find any. Defect during your ad hoc testing. But however, later, at least you create a test case so that your test case is covered. Okay. Ideally, for
Okay.
test case, we will find the defects, but certain times you can find the defect if you are very much experienced with respect to the system and all. You know that, where are the weak areas and all. Ad hoc testing once you perform. Okay. Your test case may not be covered, but you are able to find out the defect. Then ensure that you write a test case also, kind of backward track. Okay. It
Okay.
might not be linked to any requirements. It is not functional, but it is a valid defect and you are able to, because of your experience, you are able to log defect. Okay, find a
Yeah.
defect.
Okay.
Okay, and regression testing. What is your entry and exit criteria? My system testing should be fast, and you're ensuring that existing functionality should not be lost and all. I mean, should not be lost. And exit criteria is all the regression test cases should be executed, and no 772 issues will be there. No all the major issues will be resolved, and all regression test cases have been executed and passed, and the results were captured. Okay, that is
Okay.
the exit criteria. This is accessibility testing. What is the accessibility testing is, how much that particular, application is accessible to how many users at all. We will not be dealing with this accessibility testing. Typically, this will be done by performance team or volume testing, load testing, and accessible testing. They will be doing that performance testing.
They have separate teams. Okay. Yeah.
These are the
Application
separate
testing.
teams. Security testing also. Okay. Performance load testing and accessibility testing also. We used to have a separate team, but because it's a test plan, we are calling it out. And you don't have to fill in each and every section. There will be one test plan at the program level, right? You can ask the team to update this particular section in the test plan. Hey, this is your part. You please go ahead and update this. Okay. With all the
Okay.
details. These are all the templates that you need to update. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have just labeled each and every possible type of testing that it is saying. I mean, because I used to work at a program level, this is one of the biggest processes. So I have just stated. All right. And then comes to the test reporting, your execution progress status, defect summaries, any risk issues, how frequently the status reports you will be sending it. It is a daily status or they wanted the weekly status. And all the dashboards and all you create it in the Jira QLED as your QLED. It is your responsibility. If you are using the team, I mean, I'm using it as a Jira as assuming that Jira is the test management template, that test management tool that we are using. Okay. If it is not Jira, then you can use ALM or whichever is the tool that the project is working, right? Rally and all. You can use that also. Okay. But
Okay.
somewhere we need to capture all these test cases. We will have to execute those test cases. We will have to capture the results, pass or fail, and upload the test results also, meaning the attachments also. If it is a passed, I want even for that also attachment. If it is a failed, also attachment. There used to be people used to say that, okay, for past, we don't have to attach, only for failed, we are going to attach. No, it's a strict no against to the audit complaints, even if it is a pass also, because what is the evidence? You passed it as a test case. Tomorrow, it is going to fail. Okay, then how can I ensure that it is passed? Okay, some XYZ feature has to be displayed on the screen. That is my test case requirement, right? You tested that
Okay.
XYZ and you find it on the screen. And so you marked it as passed. But if you are not collecting the evidence, you are not attaching that evidence as passed, you simply mark it as passed. And only for failed ones you are going to attach. That is not going to solve. Because tomorrow, because someone has worked on some other functionality and they made it as disappeared, this XYZ feature.
Okay.
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 When it goes to
Okay.
production or something they were not able to see, then they say that, okay, that will not give the confidence. So test evidence is more important. Even if it's a pass or fail, we want evidence. Okay. And each and every step, do I need to attach evidence? That's a subjective thing. That's as per your convenience. Saying that, okay, you don't have to attach for each step, at least in Word document, you collect all the important evidences at the end of the end result and then at least attach that. Okay. But I mean, my personal suggestion is, because I heard some of the people were saying that, okay, if it is passed, you don't have to collect the evidence or attach the evidence. No. Okay. It is one of the audit compliance and it is a must and mandatory thing also, because This is all for record purpose, right? Or if something happens that you will not be with the project, I'll not be with the project, but your test evidence will test execution test results will be there forever, right? So in your place,
Yeah.
XYZ person will come and he will just look into the evidence and he will ensure that, okay, maybe in this build it is working fine and all. So capturing evidence is more important. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
And test execution progress status, any defects, how many defects you logged, it could be daily status and all. Everything will be comes under test reporting. Okay.
Okay.
And the next part is at environments also. What are all the different environments that we will be using it?
Mm-hmm.
To mask it and I'll have to say I'm doing. Yeah, here is the cadence that you are establishing, roles and responsibilities.